The man claimed that with the right equipment, he knew where and how to cut through the walls of Zhang Yi's base to launch a surprise attack. This was good news, but there was something unclear to Hong Lian. If the base could be breached with the right materials, why couldn't the Beisishan base do it, or even destroy Zhang Yi's fortress? The woman was clever and suspected that Zhang Yi's strongest defense wasn't his base, but his own strength. Maybe he and his subordinates were so strong that Marshal Shan couldn't defeat them and were counterattacked by Zhang Yi, resulting in their loss. As a precaution, Hong Lian decided not to try to rob him alone and asked for help from a rival base. She contacted Weeding and explained that Zhang Yi wasn't a simple man. If he managed to withstand the attack from the Shirshan base, they couldn't face him alone. Hong Lian proposed that they join forces to defeat him. Wing Hai was confident in his strength and asked if he and Hong Lian alone wouldn't be enough to destroy Zhang Yi. The woman argued that it wasn't a problem, but they shouldn't take the risk. Hong Lian emphasized that if they worked together, they could even get help from the Kingpo base to share the risk, which would benefit all parties. Wei Dinghai understood and admired Hong Lian's cautiousness, and he agreed to follow her ideas. However, the man only wanted priority in obtaining fuel for his troops. Now, we are taken to the Kingpo base, a power in the industrial district. Their leader and employees were factory workers. The leader preferred spending his time feeding his pets, throwing a piece of bread, and watching them fight for food. Someone came to inform him that the woman leading the Zanqing base was trying to contact him. Although he didn't like getting involved with others, the man decided to listen to what Hong Lian wanted. At the Kingpo base, the leader's daughter was protected by a giant mutant beast. The little girl was cheerful and innocent. Despite being a ruthless leader in his territory, he was also a caring father. He always reminded his daughter to wear her clothes and scarf when playing in the snow. In his office, his subordinates had been waiting for hours until their leader arrived. The man finally asked what Hong Lian wanted to discuss. The woman got straight to the point and told him that the Shirshan base had been destroyed. Although this information wasn't new to Kingpo, due to their distant territory, they couldn't get involved. The man also said that the Shirshan territory was too vast, and they could start discussing how to divide it. Hong Lian explained that this wasn't as simple as it seemed. She explained that the Shirshan territory was controlled by a very powerful group. This group had already killed soldiers from the Hong Lian and Winghai bases. Although their numbers were small, each member of this group was a mutant, and they had a safer shelter than a military fortress. Even the Shirshan base didn't have a chance against them. The man began to realize the danger. He realized that they couldn't carelessly attack, as a long journey to fight in a foreign territory could result in losing a third of their troops before the battle even began. This was in line with Hong Lian's goal of having them work together against the powerful individual. The Koyu and Yenqing bases had agreed to act together. Once Kingpo agreed, they would launch a simultaneous attack. After the three military bases agreed, the Snow sect would join in. The four major powers would unite to defeat the group and then divide the Shirshan and Zuejian territories together. The man couldn't refuse to join and miss out on a share of the profits. He then asked what would happen if they all couldn't breach Zhang Yi's defenses. Hong Lian revealed that her former employee was the owner of the company that built Zhang Yi's fortress, and they knew how to breach the defenses. Although it had many benefits, Kingpo still needed to consider this. Hong Lian waited for his response, emphasizing that this was a valuable investment. Afterward, he hung up the call and sent information about Zhang Yi to the man. Some information in the report made him curious. This wasn't a coincidence. Some time later, the Snow sect showed new developments. The person they sent to gather information about Zhang Yi had returned. The old woman said that she was very loyal to the sect and asked them to trust her words. The mysterious individual had strength comparable to a great sect leader. It was even possible that they were a heavenly hand. The situation had changed for them. If this person was indeed a heavenly hand, the other bases had underestimated Zhang Yi. They believed that even if they united with other bases, they wouldn't be able to capture him. In this case, they had to join forces with Zhang Yi. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi received a message from someone claiming to be his former classmate. Zhang Yi recognized the person and asked about their well-being. The person said that they were now the leader of the Kingpo base. However, the man was clumsy in conveying this through text, so he eventually made a phone call. Zhang Yi informed him that the leader of the Kingpo base was named Sing Tian, meaning his friend had changed his name. His friend confirmed that Sing Tian was a more majestic name. Zhang Yi realized this was a good sign for him and then asked why his friend had contacted him now. His friend just wanted to chat and reminisce about the past. Sing Tian wasn't good at studying and wasn't as handsome as Zhang Yi back then. However, who would have thought that he could become so successful? They eventually caught up with each other after years apart. Zhang Yi agreed to talk more later, but for now, there were more pressing matters. His friend informed him that Zhang Yi had killed people from the Zancheng and Koyu bases, and now they were planning to destroy him for security reasons. They wanted Kingpo to join in the attack. If the 4 bases united to attack Zhang Yi, he wouldn't stand a chance. The news of the union of the major powers was the last thing that crossed Zhang Yi's mind. Zhang Yi then asked if the call was also a declaration of war. Sing Tian explained that for now, no one would declare war, they would only launch a surprise attack. The call was just to reminisce about old times. However, Sing Tian said that to stay out of the war, he needed Zhang Yi's help. If Zhang Yi gave him 10 tons of food, he wouldn't join the war. The request made Zhang Yi pause. His friend was really bold to ask for this. Maybe the amount of food seemed enormous for the time being. However, for Zhang Yi, it was just a small portion of what he had taken from the Shirshan base when he looted it. Zhang Yi decided not to show that he had more than that. He stated that he needed time to think about his friend's request, which asked for too much food in a short time. Afterward, Zhang Yi pondered that 10 tons of food was still less than what he had taken from the Shirshan base. After thinking longer, he realized that there was a lot of food that wasn't that important to him, which he could donate. However, could he trust his friend? To be more certain, he planned to pay part of the food before the war and the rest after the battle. Zhang Yi was determined to prepare everything well and fight with the hope of gaining peace afterward. He then held a meeting with all his members. The analysis from various sides showed that the situation wasn't as bad as it seemed. The 4 major powers had indeed united, but the truth was that they were more cautious of each other. The groups that were truly determined to go to war were the Zancheng and Koyu bases. Zhang Yi explained that because of the snow, they could only attack from one direction, and that area was the perfect place to launch a counterattack. They would focus their attack power there. Zhang Yi outlined his defense plan and reminded them that their goal wasn't to defeat the enemy but to hold them off. Just making the enemy fear their strength would be enough. After that, Zhang Yi planned to negotiate with the owner of the territory, Chun. Kawada was worried that they would successfully destroy their first line of defense. They might have the resources to try and breach their defenses, and they even had powerful mutants. Zhang Yi said that anything that went beyond their current plan, he would take care of with his own strength. Suddenly, the mutant cat sensed someone approaching. Zhang Yi didn't expect anyone to come at that time. He saw someone walking alone, approaching the base. Zhang Yi decided to check from the top floor using binoculars. Zhang Yi saw an old woman from the snow sect approaching alone. This made him realize that although her appearance seemed. Pamanu was shocked, recognizing the old woman as the one who gave Linjian his powers. However, Zhang Yi didn't know what the snow sect really wanted to discuss with him. Xin Xin thought that if Zhang Yi wanted to ruin the alliance of the 4 major powers, this was the perfect opportunity. The benefits of this meeting would only be known after they made contact. Zhang Yi asked Chunlei to go out and talk to the woman, despite Chunlei feeling scared and stating that he was the weakest among them. Zhang Yi denied this, saying that in a snowy environment like this, Chunlei stood out the most. Moreover, Zhang Yi would ensure his safety. Chunlei eventually went out and followed Zhang Yi's orders, trying to prevent the woman from approaching their defense line. The old woman introduced herself and knew that she wasn't talking to the real Zhang Yi. Pamanu explained that the woman had the ability to see a person's potential power. Zhang Yi thought this ability was incredible. Zhang Yi then ordered Chen to tell the woman that he didn't want to meet her, and whatever she wanted to say, she should tell Chen instead. The woman realized that Zhang Yi was refusing to meet her directly. She said that her visit was under the orders of their leader, and there was important information that needed to be conveyed to Zhang Yi. Within 3 days, the 3 major powers in the city would attack his shelter. The woman casually mentioned that those poor people intended to attack this beautiful place. Chunlei was even shocked to hear the woman's fanatic words. The woman continued, saying that the gods always spread their love throughout the land, and these people had to be stopped. The snow sect would help Zhang Yi. Upon hearing the woman's words, Zhang Yi showed his wicked face, which was exactly what he had planned. In the city of Shanghai, the 4 major powers fought each other without any unity or cooperation. They only cared about their own interests and were willing to betray each other at any time. The more Zhang Yi could split these powers, the higher his chances of destroying them one by one. Through Chen, Zhang Yi asked if the Snow Sect didn't want to join the attack. The old woman explained that the Snow Sect's mission was to fight against evil powers and spread love. Working with Zhang Yi would bring more peace. She also said that other factions were afraid of the Snow Sect's growth, just like Zhang Yi. They were all oppressed by other powers and struggled to survive under pressure. They had to unite to fight against the hegemony of these power-based organizations. Through Chen, Zhang Yi asked for proof of their sincerity if they wanted to cooperate. The woman, who considered Zhang Yi a cautious person, sent something that he would surely like. It was a sacred object made from the soul of ice. Zhang Yi wanted to know what benefits this object had. The old woman explained that the soul of ice had a very simple function. This object could help someone awaken their spiritual essence and become a mutant. For mutants, this object could dig deeper into their potential, making them stronger. The woman claimed that for Zhang Yi, the concept of power enhancement wasn't unfamiliar. Zhang Yi wasn't too convinced by the words of this unknown woman and sarcastically asked her to reveal the truth. However, the woman persisted, saying that the soul of ice was a sacred object without side effects. The 4 major bases had already used this object, and this was how the Snow Sect gained recognition from the other bases. If this was true, then Zhang Yi was facing an extraordinary opportunity. Zhang Yi asked Xin Xin to check the documents from the Shirshan base. Did they have any records of this? Xin Xin confirmed that in the documents, it was mentioned that the Shirshan base produced mutants using mysterious energy. According to their reports, this created cells to replicate mutants on a large scale. Xin Xin also added that according to the records, the 4 major bases asked for the soul of ice to create these mutant cells. These cells didn't contain any danger, they weren't toxic substances and couldn't be manipulated or implanted in a carrier. With that, it seemed that there was indeed something like what the old woman said, and if this was true, it would be a great opportunity. Zhang Yi asked Chun to ask if ordinary people could use this object. Zhang Yi felt skeptical that something this good existed. The old woman explained that the effects of the object depended on the potential of the person using it. Therefore, the woman suggested using the object on unknown or ordinary people. Chun asked if the Snow Sect wasn't worried that Zhang Yi would refuse their cooperation despite receiving the object. The Snow Sect knew that the combined forces would come to attack. Although they couldn't cooperate to make Zhang Yi stronger and eliminate more members from the other forces, it would still benefit the Snow Sect. The woman informed them that the Snow Sect would pretend to attack together with the other. Zhang Yi asked what the Snow Sect wanted from him. The woman stated that they only wanted the right to spread the teachings of the Snow Sect in Zhang Yi's territory. This goal seemed unreasonable to Zhang Yi, but if that's what they asked for as compensation, he was willing to accept it. After the agreement was reached, Zhang Yi was now confident in Kingpo's neutrality, and the Snow Sect would become an ally. This situation became more interesting to him. Chun approached the door and asked if it was safe to bring the object inside. Zhang Yi absorbed the box into his personal dimensional space. He could assess what was inside the box. It wasn't a dangerous object. Taking more risks than usual, he decided to evaluate the object directly. When the box was opened, ice-like spheres appeared. Zhang Yi still felt skeptical and reluctant to believe that this object could unlock special powers in someone. However, if this object had the same effect as it did on Linjian, he couldn't ignore it. Unlike Linjian, Zhang Yi didn't intend to use this object to help others but for his own benefit. He wanted to see if the object's effects would be the same for him. Zhang Yi's thoughts were filled with anticipation as he reached for one of the ice-like spheres.